joining us now somebody who I think is very fond, I'm just guessing, of Sarah Huckabee Sanders because, well, it happens to be his daughter, and I've gotten to know Governor Mike Huckabee's daughter really, really well, and she is everything you think she is: warm, funny, tough, hardworking, committed, principled, and I hope one day, Governor, and maybe I'm overstepping my skis here a little bit, I hope she becomes the governor of Arkansas and follows in your footsteps, because I think she'd be elected in a landslide.
Yeah, I think her elections would be way bigger than mine ever were in Arkansas.
No, they wouldn't even. They wouldn't be close. I mean, that's a given. We know that.
But you got to remember, when I was getting started in Arkansas politics, Democrats.
You're making excuses for her doing better.
And now Republicans dominate the state. So she's got a much better path. But you know what? If I had the kind of accolades and the response that she got the other night in Orlando,
amazing.
I'd be president, for heaven's sakes. It was wonderful, and she deserved it. I think she needed it. It was a great affirmation for her. And, you know, my heartfelt thanks, just dad to dad, to the president. As one dad speaking to another, it meant a lot to me to see how warmly he has not just treated her then, but let me tell you, for all the people who talk about Donald Trump and the way he treats people, he has treated my daughter with nothing but respect, with kindness, with appreciation, and I could not be more grateful than I am to the president for the manner in which he has just given my daughter the chance of a lifetime and then treated her with the kind of respect that every father hopes his daughter will receive.
Well, I think she earned the respect. I think she's an incredible person. I've gotten to know her very, very well. I think you have every reason to be the proud dad that you are. It is a brutal job at this time, you know, and I did... Look, I kind of mostly sort of kind of gave up my Twitter fighting. I've recently had to engage this idiot over at Fake News CNN because he's now stalking my staff because he's on the lowest rated cable network. They don't even break 1 million viewers in any hour of the day. And, you know, we had over 5+ million the other night and 4 million the next night. And he's begging to be on 618 of the best radio stations in the country. And my answer is simple. I am not going to abuse the trust that my audience has put in me to put on a guy we know is part of the fake news industrial complex that peddles conspiracy theories and lies. And I'm not going to subject them to that. So then he said, well, you're not strong enough to meet me in the schoolyard. I said, I'm free the week of the 4th. Tell me where you want me to go. I'll be there.
You know what, Sean? You realize that I know why you're not putting him on. You're afraid he's going to grab the microphone and not let go. But
listen, this would be the biggest moment of his career. I get that part. But
he'd be talking to more people than he will talk to in the rest of his
So then he goes, you're not tough enough to meet me in the schoolyard. I said, I'll meet you in the schoolyard. I said, I do have conditions, though. I said, alone, and as long as it has nothing to do with your failed book, your failed network, and, you know, everything else that you failed at and or any of the lies you've told for 2+ years. And the problem is that, you know, well, Mark Levin has been on my show 4 weeks in a row, radio and TV, but not that he doesn't need my help. But, I mean, Mark Levin in 4 weeks has sold hundreds of thousands of books on freedom of the press. So he tweets out that I guess he got on the New York Times bestseller list in the double digits somewhere. I know books that, you know, number 12 on the New York Times list that sell 1,000 copies. So I looked it up. He sold a little over 6,500 books. Governor, Mark Levin, week 6, sold almost 40,000 books. His book is an epic failure. And the reason is people understand where he's coming from. But this is the crap that your daughter has had to deal with. And I don't know how you could stand it as a father. I'd go nuts.
Well, one of the things I had to deal with was just watching when Sarah would walk in there and realize that people like Jim Acosta and April Ryan and Brian Caron were going to be disrespectful, and they were going to showboat. They were going to try to make it about themselves rather than about the news. But one thing I came to learn quickly was when people say, does it make you nervous when your daughter walks in that room? And I would say, yeah, but not for her. I'm nervous for guys like Acosta who are about to get their rear ends handed to them, and they don't realize it.
You remember when they even questioned whether or not your daughter makes pies at home? Turns out, apparently, they're the best pies ever. Then she makes them, and they say, well, where did you buy them? I'm like, wow.
Yeah, and then they refused to eat them because they thought she had done a kind of a recreation of that scene from The Help, the movie where they made the pies with, well, let's just say it was not exactly chocolate. So, she would never have, by the way. I might have, but she wouldn't have. I just find it interesting that the people mostly in that room are solid professionals, and Sarah will be the first to tell you that generally the press corps in that room treat her with respect. They have a strong personal and professional relationship. But there are just a handful of people who so have tried to make it an opportunity for them to get really some camera time. And when people say, well, they haven't had a lot of press briefings, Sarah works with the press every day, but the president himself is talking to the press. And
by the way, it's almost every day. I got to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll continue more with Governor Mike Huckabee's 800. Let me ask you about the president's handling of this Iranian situation. The one thing that Donald Trump was very clear about is he does not want a foreign entanglement. And I'll be honest, Governor, my mind has changed a lot of ways after watching Vietnam. We send these kids over. We lose 58,000 kids, our national treasure. Our government asked them to fight, and never mind, it gets politicized in D.C. Iraq, Afghanistan, same thing. And I'm like, all right, we really need to reevaluate. If America's going to go to war, my attitude is we need the next generation of weaponry where we're not going to send kids into Iraq, in some cases with no up-armored Humvees, going door to door when the Iraqis ought to be doing it, and with no commitment to win the war or defining what winning is. And I'd like to see the next generation of warfare with the latest technology built that we don't have to send kids into these foreign countries and entanglements, and we'll fight these wars from Tampa, Florida.
Well, I think you've made a great point, Sean, and the biggest issue, and I think the president's right to look at it this way, it's not do we have the military capability to render a successful and a striking blow to Iran. Of course we do. The question is, what happens next? Do we end up in another Afghanistan? 18 years later, we're still seeing Americans come home in flag-draped coffins. This is a president who, when he ran, said he was not going to just get us into a bunch of wars. He was going to get us out of them. And I think he's being very careful to balance the role of taking out our enemies when they need to be, but at the same time not just embroiling us in something that billions and trillions of dollars later and thousands of American lives, we don't have any real resolution. So what we're doing with the sanctions, that's a good thing, and no Americans are dying from that. I'm proud of the fact that he exercised something that the press never gives him any credit for, and that's restraint. And he did it last night. And whether people like it or not, he showed that he is not just a guy trigger happy, ready to go out and use all the power.
Now, with that said, I don't think the Iranians get away with shooting a drone out of the air in international waters. I don't think they should get away with, blowing up 2 oil tankers and controlling the Straits of Hormuz. And I think now they're on notice. And there's got to be a proportional response. By the way, my definition of proportion is very different than other people. It's you hit me, I'm going to hit you back 10, 20 times harder.
Well, that's what the president has basically done through his whole life, and I think people get that. I think there will be a response, and it probably will involve some type of military response. But I think he will be also very careful to do 2 things. One is to make sure that it is measured and proportional to the offense that we feel. And the second thing is that we will have a clear understanding with both our allies as well as the allies of Iran as to what the limitations have to be in terms of their response.
Well, I think the Trump doctrine has got to be we can never, ever allow ever these radical extremists, these mullahs in Iran that think they're doing God's will, killing everybody that doesn't agree with them, to ever have nuclear capability, because then we're looking potentially and maybe even likely at a modern-day Holocaust.
Well, and one thing we have to do is to take them seriously when they say they want to wipe Israel off the face of the map, and then they want to come after us. These are radical zealots who have never kept a promise, but have always tried to fulfill their threats. And we cannot take that lightly. I couldn't agree more.
All right, Governor Huckabee, thanks for being with us. We know how proud you are of your daughter.